Great. I think you are the only ones that I don't turn down when you guys reach out to me for. I don't even know. I don't do a lot of speaking engagements. I don't do a lot of it. So every time you call me, I've always answered, and I think because I have fun with you guys, like I think that's cool. So before I go into what we have for today, I'd like to know who I'm speaking with. You don't need to necessarily introduce yourself via, you can just type in chat. I want to know who I'm talking to, not your name, like what you do. Mm, so this will help
Should I
me
start?
tailor. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So my name is Tolu Asholugunro, and welcome to Insider Convos. Insider Convos is uh, the conversation we usually have, specifically for the BCP community and by extension everyone else, around pressing conversations around the talent and talent ecosystem in general. One of the things we are committed to doing is creating a platform where African talents can access global opportunities, where African talents can access global opportunities, and that's what majority of our conversations have been tailored to us. So on the call, you'd have people from across different niche. We have people in core banking, investment banking, engineering, content design, fashion, across different industries, basically covering talents in general and seeing how we can discuss salient conversations like today's topic, which is around if the talent ecosystem is actually broken in Nigeria. So that's pretty much the crop of persons you'll be talking to today. And
Okay.
me and all of us, we are ready to learn.
Okay. Thank you so much for the information. The reason why I wanted to know is just so I can tailor whatever I'm saying. So I will just jump into it. So what is broken in the talent ecosystem? I think that first of all, we don't have a shortage of talents in Nigeria, and I know that with the stuff flying around social media these days and the recent arguments with the guy from Money Point about we don't have talent, blah blah blah, and all of that. Um, I highly disagree. I think that we have the talent. It's just the challenge itself. It's the ecosystem that these talents are in. That's where the brokenness is coming from. So it's not a okay. All right. Okay, I feel this chapter will be distracting. I have to just let me close it. Okay, so I think that the ecosystem itself is the problem. And one of the questions that comes to mind is, you know, when it comes to challenge, especially in the Nigerian ecosystem industry, blah blah blah, is the fact that we have a lot of talented people in Nigeria, and most of them are typically self-trained. Because as big as Nigeria is, we still do not have the necessary institutions to train. We can have conference here and there, 2 to 3 day events, master classes, all of those things. But the actual institutions that need to be in place to ensure that talents are properly catered to, we don't have them in Nigeria. And that's where the brokenness really starts from. It's identifying talents early enough to grow the talents that they have. For example, everybody here on the school, I'm sure we all went to school, but probably all graduates. We have our first degrees, right? But the thing about and I want to let me just guess, probably all schooled in Nigeria. There might be some international people here, but we probably school in Nigeria. And you know what the educational system is like in Nigeria. It's basically like cram rapport. You're not allowed to really think freely. You don't have the luxury of actually thinking. What you do is you go to class. You're taught something and you're expected to regurgitate that exact thing in your exams. There's the reason why you have like I don't think marking schemes. But for example, I'm a lawyer, I went to law school. And one thing they will tell you in the Nigerian law school is that what you hear in class is what you want to see in the exam. Right? They will tell you that after you're done with law school, you can go and unlearn and relearn. But for the purpose, if I let me use the exact word, for the purpose of passing bar part two, this is what we want to see when we ask you this question in your exam. That ordinarily has, you know, sort of caged the way you think. That's sort of stifled the kind of expression that is required for you to be a um, a lawyer with the global standard. Let's put it that way, right? And these are the problems. Now, let me bring this down to working environments. As a Nigerian, if you're not working in like the tier one, tier two, in fact, tier two is still far, but if you're not working in tier one environments or tier one organizations, you don't typically know what your trajectory is like in an organization. I mean, you come in as an intern, you don't know how long it takes for you to get promoted to whatever it is like the next position in line. The metrics are not even necessarily clear. That's because there's also the part of office politics. There's office politics all over the world, but here in Nigeria is an entirely different thing. Most organizations do not necessarily have plans for the people that work with them. What they are after is the things that they can get from this talent that they are employing. You get employed and they're just looking for how to whatever it is that you know, they want to utilize it. And once it's by the show of it, I'd like to ask a question, I'd like to get answers. If you've been working for the last 3, 4 years, or maybe if you've worked for an organization for 5 years straight on or 4 years straight on and they invested in anything that pertains to your training. And when I say training, I'm not saying the work that you do at the organization or that they gave you proper training opportunities. Please raise your hands. You worked in an organization for 2, 4, 3, 5 years and they ensured that you got the training that you needed to improve. Look at that. And then they say there's a talent problem. The people that are trying to hire these talents, let me explain something to you. They're looking for ready-made people, but they don't understand that you invest in people and they invest back, like, and you get your investment back. It's like ROI. But that's how it's supposed to be. When you come into an organization, there should be a trajectory for you that helps with your growth, which in turn helps your organization grow. But in Nigeria, again, like I said, we are not working in tier one organizations. You don't get that. You have to you hustle to get a job. You get on the job. You try your best to ensure that you're doing what you need to do, and at the same time, you're the one that is funding your trainings that's growth opportunities. And of course, they say, "Oh, but we're paying you your salary." It's great that you're paying. And most of them don't necessarily pay well. I think it's what they're paying you, but it's the duty of the organization to train you because they're the one that they know what they want and they know where they're going. Why not invest in people that are working with you to get where you're going and not just put all the burden on them? So it's one of those things.
Uh, Hi, for me. If you're speaking, we can no longer hear you, and you're on mute. These are some of the things that we complain about in Nigeria. If it be network like that. So while we wait for Fumi to come back in, um, while we wait for Fumi to come back in, if you have questions along the way, if you'd like to make comments, can you signify in like the chat? We'll definitely create room and accommodation for people to also share their thoughts and also ask um, questions. Who should encourage me now? Let me even know that you heard me. Hi, from me. Welcome back. You are on mute.
I'm so sorry. Network. Network is trying me over here. So sorry about that. Right, I didn't even know what the last thing you heard, but what I was trying to lay the foundation of the fact that the talent ecosystem problem in Nigeria is the fact that Nigeria itself, the way it's positioned, sort of lacks the ability to produce, develop, and retain talents. So when I say produce, it was the example that I gave about when you go to school, to university in Nigeria, you're, you're not necessarily allowed to express the intelligence that you have. You are expected to follow a status quo that has been there for decades. And when I say develop, is that now you get out of school, you're employed in an organization. What I think that so the challenge with this development aspect is that employers equate credentials with competence a lot of times. So now, if you've worked 10 years, yes, you should be competent in whatever it is that you've been doing for those 10 years. But coming out of school fresh, I don't know if you guys have been seeing the recent trend of people saying they want to employ interns, but they're expecting some certain years of experience from them. Have you? It's been a thing now for a few years where you see a job application saying they're looking for interns and they ask that you have a year or two experience.
Yeah.
What am I interning for exactly? Because last I heard, internship is the opportunity for you to actually learn. It's foundational level of a job. So if I have experience, then I shouldn't be coming in as an intern. I should be coming in as an employee of a full staff that you pay the right remuneration, right? So sometimes, not sometimes, in this season or the phase that we are in now, because I know this is evolve from time to time. This season evolve from time to time. Employers would equate credentials like, oh, you finished from school with a first class that you probably just read for and wrote the exam for. You didn't necessarily have the opportunity to practicalize what you learned, right? Which is why one of the reasons why, as much as I have a love or hate relationship with the profession of the law profession, the externship program that we do during law school for I think for 3 4 months, it sort of helps. Although that's another the story for another time because you will go on this externship. The things that you see in practice are different from what you are being taught in class. Let's not go into that, but yeah, that is a thing. You guys are making me remember. You go on externship and then you see what is being done in practice. You go to court, you work in a law chamber, and you find out that if you write what you've experienced in real life in your exam, you would actually fail the exams. And the interesting thing is that they know in school and they will tell you, don't go to your extensive and go and learn what we did not teach you. They tell you after law school, when you become a lawyer, that's when you can utilize your free will or you can utilize your certificate, then now, do things in certain ways. But yeah, credentials do not always equal competence. Now, that's where the development comes from. As an organization, if you employ someone, you should ensure that they're constantly on a developmental journey within the organization. Now, let's come to retaining talent. The way I've broken all of these things down, I'm not sure if you have any questions at any point or you'd like me to draw more on anything particularly, please let me know. Because the way I'm doing it is like it's like I'm telling like a story. So started with we don't have a talent problem, we just have a develop a the ecosystem is where the problem is. That ecosystem is production, development, and retention. That's what it is. So now let's talk about retaining talents. Nigeria is happening to everybody we know. We know that there isn't you know not a lot of people are making a lot of money right now. The people that are making money, but not everyone is making that money. But you still need people to help as an employer. You still need people to bring your dreams to fruition, right? Which means you have people working with you. The strategy to retain people is not cajoling them or letting them know that everybody is suffering. If you suffer with me now, what startups. If you suffer with me now, in a few years you might become a unicorn, or in a few years we might exit and we pay everybody off. There's also the trend of paying people in equity for organizations that will probably not grow, but you will be there for 4 years, 3 years, you'll be collecting 200K. The rest is in equity. The rest of the money is in equity, you just be there. Meanwhile, the people you're working with, they're making money, like they're paying themselves well, but you are the one that needs to help them get to where they need to be. And then they would try and retain you. But then the 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 strategy for retention within the talent ecosystem in Nigeria is also part of the broken aspects. And what do I mean by that? I'm going to read out of my notes so that I'm clear or I don't start to ramble. So this is the formula that I wrote down for proper retention of talent. Mm. Good compensation, meaningful work, career progression, and an infrastructure that helps the talent live a good quality of life. That's my formula for retaining talent within an organization. Good compensation, meaningful work, career progression, and an infrastructure that enables the talent live a good quality of life. Now, issues are on both ends. Sorry, what do you mean by the issues are on both ends? You can speak, or if you're unable to, you can just type in the chat
Okay,
box. Okay, I'm listening.
okay, okay. The reason I mentioned that is I manage a digital execution business where I find talent for clients looking for opportunities. I
Mm-hmm.
have also met clients that are willing to pay. I mean, I have clients in the US that would rather bring their money back home instead of taking their money anywhere else. But I've also met talents that have, how do I put this? How do I say this? I've also met talents that don't give their 1000% and would
Mm,
rather charge more than delivering. For example, we worked on a website development project,
okay.
and after a week in the project, my developer started becoming funny. You could literally hear the irritation from his voice. He was tired of doing the project, but you have asked us money in full. We paid you 100%. We have given you extra bonuses, but now you're going 2 days and 3 days and 4 days without giving me any update. Your community. In fact, there was a day we were discussing, and he was like, "Oh, I have other clients." I'm like, "Oh, okay, but you haven't produced. You have not given me what I needed." Instead, he was thinking about how he could add extra charge to us because, according to him, the project should be done in 4 days or should be done in 2 weeks. So, in as much as the organizations and the economy are not producing as much, because I'm also in this position where I work with both clients and talent, I have seen a whole lot of craziness. He behaved so bad that, like the way he was communicating, that my client had to say, you know what, I don't want to speak to this person anymore. Since we have made payments, let's finish the project. Now, you would think that because of that information, by the second time that we were doing an update for the website, he would be better. No, we have to go through the same thing. You would think that after the conversation we had, because by the second time my client didn't want to work with him anymore, I had to be the bridge. And that was even how I started my business, because nobody wants to speak to someone. You're good, you have the skill, but you don't have the communication. Like, how did I tell you the same thing for the second project? You would think by the third update, this person will be smart. Guess what? No. Here's what happened. He lost that position, and we had to go on Fiverr to find somebody in Pakistan to do that project. Now, Fatima is doing that project on that. She's giving us a 1 day delivery rating, and she's finishing our work in 6 hours, the way we like it. So, in as much as the economy might not produce that for you, or they have their shortcomings, the talents too don't. It's like every time that I speak to somebody for a project, you're giving me a price, but the value you're creating for me, I haven't seen it. But as much as there's that one person, I also have somebody that I work with as a video editor that we work with. Same thing, he has that Fatima's energy. If I give him a project today and he tells me 1 week, he best believe that in 4 days, that project is done the way the client wants it, not the way he assumes the client. So as I said, the problem is on both ends. Businesses do not want to invest because there are so many times that they have invested people, they have given all those promotions, and these people have gone ahead to poach their clients and move over to their business. So it's a two-way street. The people that are willing to give it, absolutely, why not? But the talent must also allow themselves to be open to receive and also provide value. So that's basically my take on it.
Right, I absolutely agree with you. In fact, I was I was going to start with the employers and then move to the employee, then move to the government. That's what my train of thought was supposed to look like. But thank you for taking us there actually. So I was talking about good compensation and all of that, but Glory, Obi was speaking. Before you go, I want to ask you, since this is what you do, there's always when we always have the bad eggs, whether as an employer or as an employee. They want to give me a ratio on a scale of 1 to 10. How many bad eggs have you had to work with? In like, no, that's not the question I'm trying to ask. What I'm trying to ask is, let's assume that you've worked with 10 people throughout the time that you've started this work that you do. I think you hire for people, right?
Yes, I've worked with over 10 people actually. So, yeah.
All right. So I'm just this is an assumption. How many bad
Mhm.
people were in that 10 people? Let's assume it's just 10.
Let's say 6 to 4. So 4 bad eggs and 6 good people.
Okay, that's really bad.
I mean across, because I just don't look for clients for
I get
videographers, and
you.
I also
I
look
get
for
you.
like
Do
sales reps. Guess what? You get some sales rep and give them requirements. They are not
you?
reading the requirements that you send them. I literally had to
Mm-hmm.
put I wrote a message on LinkedIn recently, and I was like, stop spoon feeding people, because immediately these talents know that you can help them do the thing easier, like get it done for them. There's this layback energy that they just, okay, you can handle it now. Imagine someone that, okay, we got a role. Currently have a position for customer service role. Now the
Mm-hmm.
company is already 150 years old. It's across Canada and the US. So yes, like you said earlier, I liked when you said they're not looking for talents that are just starting up. They're looking for already made talent. But they're looking for new talents that are willing to make the effort. You, we have also put people that were just starting that still made effort and got the positions, not just people that were already good at the job. But there must be an effort. Like there must be, okay, the story I was about to give you. So this guy, I sent him the requirements. He needed to use a workspace. We had discussed that,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you have to go and get your workspace. Now, after the interview and everything, there's a 5-day training period before onboarding.
Yeah.
Okay, you're using your workspace, you're using this particular workspace for now, but you found out that there's not a restriction, but that like by 6 p.m. you will not be able to use that space. Can you believe that it was after the training, which was after a week, where had already gotten the onboarding process, that he started looking for a workspace? What did you use the entire week for? Like, I literally, let me tell you how much I made the job so easy for them. I live in Port Harcourt. I literally got a partnership here in Port Harcourt for a workspace that has laptops, everything, so that the opportunity, because I know that somebody will tell me that because they don't have laptop, that's why. So I got a partnership with a workspace where they can provide laptop, everything. So go there. But the person, unfortunately for me, wasn't in Port Harcourt. He's in Lagos. But tell me the
Mm.
reason why you have a job that is coming and you're in your training period and you don't use those days, because these trainings are like maybe 2-3 hours a day, EST. So you have your entire morning to go and do your research, get your workspace, but no, you just sat down and then started feeling some kind of way when it was already time for your onboarding and you did not have any space to work. Let me tell you, because now when we were even getting in this job, my contact had already said there's a possibility that this person is not going to survive, and she didn't lie, because he got onboarded and after his week of nesting period he was terminated. Real life is, nobody told me this story. Real life. So, and this is not the first position I'm giving him. I've given him an earlier position in another customer service role, which I don't know what happened. He has complained, oh, my laptop and all that. It's like immediately they know that somebody can help them in that position. There are lacks about the situation, but I don't think life works like that. I told my friend and I said, you have to take it out. 100% doesn't work anymore in the society that we are. Do 1,000% and even take energy from other people around you. Take as much. Like anybody that is wasting their energy, take it, because this market is no longer sleeping. It needs people that are thinking on their feet, that can go a little bit above the requirements. Not that they'll pay you less. Just show yourself valuable. I remember when I started working, because I did a course as a virtual assistant and almost immediately landed my first job. And when I saw my pay in the beginning, I was like, this is small because I get paid per hour. And my assistant said, before you want to ask for more money, make yourself so valuable that this person can't do without you. That client has gone ahead to recommend me to multiple clients. And I noticed that every time he recommends me to somebody, he increased my paycheck. If he recommends me, I get, like, you just tell me from next month, this is going to be your new paycheck. We've been working for over 2 years, and I've gotten a lot of projects from him that I've gone ahead to give to other people. So, in as much as the clients can be terrible, the talents too are not, and that gap is what I'm feeling, and that they are making me make money. Because if I can help my clients avoid speaking to someone that is not listening to them, why not? So that's my 2 cents, anyways.
Thank you so much for sharing, Glory. Um, this talent problem that we have, I wasn't saying Nigeria, but it's not particular to Nigeria, but because of the topic for today is Nigeria's ecosystem is, you have to see it like you literally have to see it as an ecosystem. It starts from the government, trickles down to schools and universities, When people now graduate, it trickles down to employers, then it trickles down into individuals, into communities, all of these things. And what do I mean by that? What you just explained to me, mm, there are a few bad eggs, but there are also people who are just entirely ignorant of some things. This person that you mentioned, the first story that you mentioned, it just seemed like a at first when you started the story, it sounded like maybe the person was greedy. But as you continue to speak, what I noticed there was just a communication problem on some level. I'm not sure if you agree with me, but that's a soft skill that is missing somewhere. But
That is correct. That is correct.
exactly, that's a soft skill that is missing somewhere. And if you really look at it, if you sit that person down and talk and have like a great conversation with them, you would now find out where that is coming from. It might be from university. It might be how they entered into the labor force, maybe the first organization that they work with. It really could be anything. But since you brought us to this point now, it's what I'm just trying to say now is when you say there's a problem in an ecosystem, when the Money Point founder spoke, he made it sound like the talent was the problem. But you can't put the blame on one part of the ecosystem. It's like a cycle. You go to school, you graduate, get a job, or when you get a job, at some point, you want to become an employer, you build an organization, you go back to those schools again, employ somebody. It's a cycle. It goes on and on, right? So at every point, there's a problem. Now, let me give you this example. While while I did like in my first year of working with the Lagos State government, we worked on the industrial policy plan, right? In Lagos, we identified 6 industries that would help with the trajectory of revenue in Lagos State. Identify those 6 industries. Now, that's the work of the government. They've done that. They've done the groundwork. They've done the research work. Then we found out that these 6 that has been identified, it doesn't just apply to Lagos State. It applies to Nigeria as a whole. But because it's a Lagos State thing, okay, so this is the Lagos State thing. So, and aside from universities, we have schools in place. We have um aside from universities, I mean, we have some other schools where people get trained, people that basically can get into the university in Lagos State, particularly, right? We checked the curriculum of these schools or of these training centers, and we found out that it has nothing to do with these 6 industries. Not polytechnics, etc. here, but the curriculum of these training schools have no technical schools. That's what I'm trying to remember. Technical schools. It has nothing to do with these 6 industries that have been identified. Mind you, where we are not identifying these industries for the first time. It's not new information. There's always been there. So while the government has done their part in saying, oh, this is what we need to do move forward, we have schools and even organizations springing up, but there's a divide between what they are chasing and what the government is chasing. And you know how without government policies, you really see. I always tell people that it's great to be in the private sector, beautiful place, but if you are not in line with the government or what the government is trying to do, you will struggle a lot. And I know that you guys are aware that we're having those issues currently in the creator economy, particularly in Lagos State, where they are taxing people unnecessarily, amongst other things. What you guys are seeing right there, it might look like, oh, the government is wicked. What you're seeing there is a disconnect somewhere, right? It's a disconnect that's happening somewhere. But let's not get into that. Let me come back to where I was. So we have identified these industries. We have training schools whose curriculum have nothing to do with what's has been identified. Now, these people will go to school, just the same way you and I went to school. Every year, law school churns out 7,000 plus lawyers. every year. I want to start to thinking. Every single year, law school churns out over 7,000 lawyers, right? So those people come out. Their background is in law. They've trained to be lawyers, but you find them in banks. Some of them go and do trainee, graduate training programs in banks. You find them, even though they say lawyers can work anywhere, but there's a way you can work anywhere. It's not that you can do anything you like. There's a path that's been set for a lawyer to work in a bank, and it's not a teller. You're not supposed to go there as a teller, right? So you find them in all these different. So this is what I'm trying to do right now is explain the disconnect that is happening, which will lead to all the discrepancies that we're facing within the talent ecosystem, right? So this person as a lawyer now gets to the bank, becomes a teller. This person, you know that I don't know if you know, most of people that study law is because they don't know maths. Me particularly, I wasn't good in maths in secondary school, and I was asked what's the next best thing aside from being a doctor. My parents wanted me to be a doctor. What's the next best thing that is in art class? And they said lawyer. I said, oh, let me do mass comm. My father was like, no, lawyer. I said, okay, no wala. So I studied law, right? So you guys can see the disconnect. So I finished studying law, and now I'm a teller in the bank. I don't know maths, accounting. See, this is one of the reasons why I was saying maybe we should not record. I don't like money. Like counting money, seeing money is a, and I'm sure I'm not the only one because it just your brain you have to calculate, right? But now you are a lawyer who probably thinks like me, and you're working in a bank as a teller. So I want you to imagine what customer care conversations would look like between me as a teller and a customer. I might be thinking I'm doing the best thing in my, you know, in my capacity to attend to this person properly. But was I trained for that? I wasn't trained for that. So what would have been best for me to do is probably um take additional courses, which is what I did. By the time I got into my third year in school, I found out that I'm not really going to be a lawyer. I will finish everything, but I won't be practicing as a lawyer. So I started taking courses. That's how I pivoted into the creative economy, started doing project management and the likes. I figured that out early. Not everybody figures that out early. You need to also put that in mind. But again, like I said, if there are structures in place that are like clearly neat structures in place, the entire ecosystem works smoothly. It's like what's happening right now is, you know, when you have a door, let's use a metal door for example. You know, when it gets old, it starts to make it starts to make noise if it's not properly oiled. That's what we're currently facing. That's my best description of what's happening in the current ecosystem right now. Is that several parts of the ecosystem are not well oiled, and that is affecting talent, it's affecting employers, it's affecting employees, it's affecting investors, it's affecting, like, it's literally affecting everybody, right? So when you say that you've worked with 10 people and 4 people were not great clients or great employees, the problem typically is, we just blame them. Sometimes we need to look at, where they're coming from. We need to look at uh, we need to look at the process that brought them there. And we don't, as people, especially as employers, we don't necessarily think about that, which isn't bad, by the way. Again, we're not pointing fingers at anyone. We're not saying that, oh, you are the problem. The ecosystem is the problem. That's what I'm getting at. The ecosystem is the problem. And that is why it looks like employers are struggling with talent in the creative industry. That's the reason why it feels that way. Right? It's not a, how do I put it? It's not a one sect problem. It's not a one sect problem in any way, shape, or form.
Well, I guess we're at another intermission. So if you have questions, comments, now would be a good time to drop them. Before she comes back in. Well, I'll just ask, how has it been so far? I need like one or two responses. This country is never beating the allegations. Yeah, I mean, so how has it been so far? Okay, she's back. She's back. She's back. Welcome back for me. You are on mute.
Apologies. Sorry, I apologize. Yeah, I can't remember the last thing I said before I went up. What was the last thing I said? I'm
You were
sorry.
saying it's the ecosystem problem, and that's why I keep circling around.
Yes. And because so it's an ecosystem problem, but then because employers are at the hierarchy, they are at the top. It's easy for them to talk down on talents because they have the investors, they have the money, they had the idea, they are building something. In their own mind, talents are not building anything, they're just trying to make money, which isn't true. It's not true that talents aren't trying to build themselves or build capacity or even do meaningful. Remember what I mentioned, what it means, the formula for retention, doing meaningful work. Let's even assume a talent isn't necessarily building anything, but I don't think there's anybody that's living their life the right way without doing purposeful work. You can't be in the right state of mind if you're not doing anything purposeful. This is why people, misbehave and do all sort of things. But an average talent is trying to build capacity, is trying to do meaningful work. An average employer is trying to build, a credible organization. But there's that problem where there's no sync or there's just a problem. But then I think generally the problem is that the goal should not always be to have an employable person. Do you understand? Everybody in the ecosystem needs to be thinking about the ecosystem. I don't know, does that make sense to us? When I say everybody within the ecosystem should be thinking about the ecosystem, not about themselves. I don't know.
Yes, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
So if everybody, for example, as an employer, if you're thinking about yourself alone, that is why you'll be thinking, oh, there are no talents. Talents are this, talents are that. You that you found, maybe let's assume that this employer that's saying, oh, talents they're not meeting world standard. Do you have a training part of your organization that ensures that talents can become world standard? And you're telling me that nobody decided to take the opportunity because I agree. Also, see, I run an NGO, which means we do free stuff. Do you know we find it hard to find people to come and collect free things? Hey God, it's so hard to help people. It's like when I started this NGO in 2017, I did not envisage that this would be part of the problem we'll be dealing with. That we're saying, come and come and get something for free, and we're chasing you. Ah, wow. So yeah, as I was saying, everybody within the ecosystem needs to be thinking about the ecosystem, which means that as an employer, if you find out that there's something wrong, you don't just push blames. You put structure in place to solve it. If you cannot afford to put structure in place to solve it, speak out. And when you're speaking out, it's to solve a problem, not to name blame. Do we get that? Like, it's not to name blame, it's to solve a problem. So you find maybe you run an organization for like 5 years and you find out that there's a recurring problem, maybe with a particular department or a particular skill. So what do you do about it? One of the things that we do is I work in a creative economy, but particularly in the fashion industry. One of the things that I do every year is that I sit down with my team. We look at the entire year, not the year for also, the entire year of fashion, particularly in Nigeria. Find out the things that went wrong, the places that things went wrong and how they went wrong. And then what do? We go online and search for courses, and then we put it out there. We have a community. We send out newsletters, sending the link to these opportunities to learn. Some of these opportunities are paid for, some of them are free. We are typically trying to find paid and free opportunities as well, and we send it out. That's our own way, because we're thinking of the ecosystem once again, not thinking about how to benefit. And it's an NGO, anyways, but not thinking about how to benefit ourselves. What we do is we find those opportunities and we put it out there. But I'm pretty sure that we don't have a lot of people doing that. And what I'm talking about now is also a form of CSR that organizations to be doing. How many of us here are familiar with the CSR plans of our organizations? That's even if they have one. Hmm? You can speak. Who is raising their hand?
So I'm raising my hand that I'm familiar with the PSRO of my company.
Well, me, I work in NGO, so it's the CSR that comes to us.
Exactly. But every other person, we have more people on the call now. Why is somebody saying anything? Because you don't want to talk, you can type in the chat box. Because that's up, that's the goal of CSR. Is thinking about the ecosystem as well. That's what it is. Why is somebody? We should. I'm going to give you a few minutes. If you're familiar with a few seconds, you're familiar with the CSR plans of the organization, please you can type in the chat box if you don't want to speak.
I think for me, it's just basically being in a position where I can continue to provide jobs for people, basically, and without limitations. Because again, just because I had it lucky or I had it good, I got before I got out of school, I already had opportunities. I'm not the best version, but opportunity needs preparation, taking free courses, and not everybody has that. So my job basically, or what my purpose basically is making sure that I continue to be in a position where I can connect that talent with the people that are qualified or even trying their best to just become better in life and create value for them. So getting people jobs basically. I think that's what is my
Nobody else is saying anything.
Thinking the origin of company CSR and necessary. Okay,
Eh?
I think no, I was reading what Surface had in the chat. So we can make comments in the chat if we do not want to speak. Precious, Joseph, Kaina, Shay works with an investment bank. Is an investment banker. Is people that are supposed to be giving ecosystem money.
You see,
Now, I'm supposed to give ecosystem money through CSR.
Okay. I think
well. We are doing that. We are doing that to the best of our ability, I believe.
I believe.
Well, you can prove me otherwise.
As I be your company.
All right, thank you.
so. Honestly, when we're thinking about ecosystem problem, there's no shortage. It's just the entire process, which I have outlined. I have here written in my notes that the questions that we need to be asking really is, how do we identify talents early enough? Right. So when I say identify talents early enough, is that you start an organization, you employ a few people in different departments. As an employer, you pay attention to who that you have employed, probably via the HR, and identify what they can do and what they cannot do, and improve and help them improve on it. Which brings us to the next question: Are you developing as an employer or even as a talent, are you developing the right skills? Right. Are you developing the right skills? The next one is now as a as industries, right? Are we creating enough opportunities? This one is even a very interesting one because in Nigeria, everybody is in some way a business owner on different levels, right? Even those that are working 9 to 5, they have their own, you know, side gig that they do that they do. But now this question really also just pertains to the government. Are there enough opportunities for the talents? And now the next one is these talents that are supposed to be creating opportunities for. Do we have the right institutions in place to connect them to employers?
I don't think we do. If we do not have a lot of them at the moment,
One of the things that we're trying to bring back in Lagos State now, which might come with the next administration, is what do they call them? This just ran away from my head. If I remember, I will mention it. But yeah, and now it's something we've also spoken about is are organizations equipped to develop the talents that they need? Have they factored that into their, you know, the creation of their organization? That we need to train people as well as we are taking from them, taking what they know from them. We need to also invest in them. Our organizations doing that. So you can say that it's like Glory said, everybody, it touch everybody. It's not one person's problem. It's like it's what's going on in the chat box? It's the real question is these are
I
all
was
the
saying
questions we
that's
need to be
actually
asking.
true. Like that's very logical. It's give and take, right?
Give
But you're
and
only
take.
just taking, and then you're complaining that what you're even taking is not like at the best quality that you wanted. But have you even given? And I didn't like even look at it in that sense. I thought, oh, it was just normal, right? And I thought it was only companies that really care to be intentional about the talents that they work with would want to
That's
train.
everybody needs to care and be
Actually,
intentional. That's the thing.
yes, that's how we should
Everybody
actually.
needs to be, but people choose and pick. People choose and pick, and it can't work. It wouldn't work that way. So we don't have a talent problem. We don't. Is the ecosystem broken? Yes, it is. But the talent is not the reason why it's broken. It's every other thing in between. From government to government policies to employers to investors, amongst other things. It's an entire thing. So if there's anything that you'd like me to touch on, if you have any questions, please let me know. Or if there's any aspect you'd like me to dwell more on? Because all I've done so far is to convince you and not to confuse you that talent is not the problem. It's everybody. We are all the problem.
all right. Thank you so much for me. I mean, that was a very insightful conversation. Thank you, Chloe, for the contribution along the way. Yeah, so give room for it's already 3 minutes past our scheduled time, but give room for one or two questions that anyone might have. Questions? Right. I do have a question, which is how do we convince organizations to contribute to the development of their talent? The major argument sometimes within organizations is that there's no budget or there's no money or some other things. Even organizations that tell you and assure you that there's a learning budget and all of that stuff. When time comes to assess that, it sometimes doesn't really pull through. So, do you have any ideas, maybe from experience, how we can go around either convincing organizations that do not have this already preset, or the ones that have it? How do we then convince them that, okay, this is what I want to do, and I want you to support me in that? I also add the context of experiences of the I think Emmanuel Fried mentioned it at some point in one of our conversations we had. They supporting a talent, and then the talent feeling that he's now bigger than the organization, and he moves on to another organization. So how do we manage such conversations?
I think you just asked me two questions. Is it two questions?
It's one and a half.
So the first thing I heard is, how do you convince organizations to develop their talents? That's one. And second one you mentioned, which is the last illustration you gave about training an employee and then they leave because they become too big for the organization. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay, so that second one you said, very common in the fashion industry. You would bring a tailor from Ghana or Togo. You will house them in Lagos, train them on how to make clothes for your business. They will learn the technique, then then a bigger organization will not poach them. You want to cry because you would have invested not just money, but like I said, groomed this person, housed them, fed them, pay them, remuneration, and then they leave. Typically, that's the fear of organizations when it comes to training. That's typically the fear. Because they're like, if you train this person now, when they know what they know, then they decide to leave. The best way, which me I always propose, and people always feel like it's because I'm pro-government, it needs to be a government policy that is followed to the T. Yeah, always say, oh, we want a working Nigeria, or Nigeria is not working. Do you people? I want you to be honest with yourself. Everybody on this call, do you think you can survive in working Nigeria? We as
Right.
as an employer, you will build an organization, and you would fail to train people in your organization, and they will shut you down, or you'll find you one ridiculous amount that if you pay it, your company cannot survive. Where there are consequences for not doing what you want to do or what you are asked to do. I mean, see, I'm a very I still when I was growing up, I wanted to be a teacher, but I was told that I'll probably be a wicked teacher. But if you check the definition of wicked teachers these days, it's people that are sticking to what needs to be done. Because I'm a compliance person. That's who I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I'm a compliance person. So I'm pretty sure, not I'm pretty sure, I'm sure that there are policies in place to ensure that an organization is training their employees, but people are just not following through on it. But if the government decides to clamp down on it, everybody's just going to do what they need to do. Honestly, I feel that's the best way I think anybody can be encouraged to train their. Every other way is not going to work. Every other way isn't going to work. Government needs to come and ensure that they are doing what they need to do. Because every other thing that I would suggest, these people know already. It's like the first common sense reason why an employer should train an employee is the ROI. If you train them, they do a better job. And it makes building what you want to build easy. It's as simple as that. Honestly, it's as simple as that. But now, the question about talents leaving you. mm, You remember how I mentioned that this is very rampant in the fashion industry? You will find out that the reason that happens without any consequences is because the employer is probably doing is first of all, the employer is probably ignorant, one. Secondly, the employer is probably lacking in some way, shape, or form. Now, let me explain what that means. If you, and again, this might sound wicked, it might sound mean. eh,
Glory, your hand was raised.
Yeah, so I actually just wanted to speak about what she was talking about. I,
Okay, okay.
in my opinion, and from the little work experience I have, I think what makes the great is this is a problem, or these are problems that would for a very long time still be here. One thing I've noticed about the multinationals, in as much as they have these great employees, they always have a backup. And even kind of how I do my business too. For example, I need a virtual assistant. In as much as that person might probably come with a recommendation, I've seen their portfolio, they are doing the best. You must also be open to have someone else. Because the truth is that as the business grows, there are new formulas, there are new problems. Some people's problem last year was having too much orders, but the resources got really expensive. For some other people, is they were not getting clients at all. So at every stage, you must be open to see what is the best way to navigate through this process. She said something that I also picked on when she said, when you notice clients, especially in the fashion industry and whatever industry, they go ahead to take your clients. I think it comes from the place where, like she said rightly, that business owners, they become lax. They just relax. I have someone that is doing it so I can relax, forgetting that the business is yours and you give all the formulas to this person. So my thought process is, if I'm the one doing 30, 40, 50% or 60% of the company revenue, and I have access to all these people in your business. And for example, if it's a lash tech, for example, you are the business owner, I'm the lash tech, and everybody that comes to your store says, oh, I want Tolu to do my lashes, for example. So I already have 60, 70% of your customer base already working with me. Why am I not going to think that the next thing to do is to start my own business? Of course, I want to start my own business because I already have a clientele to start my own business. So business owners are quick to, especially in Nigeria, they are quick to delegate. You have not set proper systems and standards in your company. The next thing you want to do is to delegate it to somebody. Make the person a unicorn when you can have multiple unicorns. There must at least still be one person that will stand through the process. A lot of businesses have had that. When I was watching one interview from one lady, she said that she had been in the company, she had this employee very good at her work, was hitting her target, but she noticed the lady was stealing from her about $1 or $2,000. It was just going when she was doing her auditing. And she decided, she brought someone. She didn't go ahead to shout for the girl to say, oh, you've been stealing from me. She just got someone, created a position, and the lady literally started understudying the new person. But that's because she was on hands with the business and she could realize that stuff like that was already shifting. If she removes her hand from the business, or if she had just been blind about the business, she probably wouldn't find that. And in 2, 3 months, when this lady had understudied the lady, she just let the lady go, gave her severance pay, and told her to go. And she said she never spoke with that lady to say, oh, you stole from me. But that was because she's on hand working this. You cannot start delegating a business that hasn't even businesses that have been 3 years, 4 years, that have been 20 years, they still have that issue. But we are just, some people are just a business of 2 years and you want to start delegating all of a sudden doing. I know how many people in this period that have called as customer agents one of the worst experiences I've had. I've had people that because I decided not to speak in pidgin and I was speaking with an accent, they ended the call for me. Just imagine what that business owner is losing without having that information because they don't think that every department, like, oh, I've delegated the customer service information to this person. You forget that the business, until the business gets into maybe a even as a multinational, you still need to keep your eyes on your business. So until businesses realize that this is a problem that will continue in the longest, but put systems down and be more hands-on their businesses, I think we'll just keep talking and pushing everything to the government. Yes, government can put policies, but is this a government that have kept policies? When I was in school, I went to, I think, Ajakuta, Kogi State. We went for a field trip. That place has been shut down for over 10 years. And guess what? If you go through the national budget, there's a budget for it though that gets paid every year. But the building is not functional. That is somebody's take home every other day. So in as much as the customers are great, yes, so the day you choose to have a business, you must become the unicorn of your business. Nobody can know a formula more than you. There was a story in Lagos about a lady that has a bakery, and she realized that some people in her company started using her recipes. I think the way she solved it was every single day she created a new recipe, not literally a new recipe, but she added a new ingredient into that formula that made it unique to her. So you're coming to steal her yesterday's formula, but guess what? Today she already has a new one. So how are you the unicorn in my own business? So for me, that's my take. You must be open to be on your business and create new formulas, not and keep systems down that will continue to run your business while we're waiting for the government to catch up with us. So yeah.
Thank you. For me, do you want to wrap up? Like finish up the thoughts, the flow of thoughts you were making before network cut you off. If you are speaking, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Turns out I was speaking to myself all this while. I didn't know that the network had gone off.
So sorry.
But yeah, I was listening to what Glory had said about putting systems in place and structures. And it was basically where I was getting to. And she gave very, really interesting examples and all of that. But if there's no other question, I guess we're good.
All right. I think that's a wrap for today. So one thing I learned, which I think is the crux of today's conversation, is that we each have a responsibility to ensuring that the talent ecosystem within Nigeria gets better, in developing ourselves, definitely. In also wherever we find ourselves, also contributing the best of our ability to such places. And when we will now have businesses and own organizations, also implement the right things. Yes, and as we move on, while we demand for the government to be accountable and to do the necessary, we can also place systems within our organizations, within our corporations, that ensures that things are done properly. I think that's beautifully well said. Thank you so much for me. Has been beautiful, beautiful as usual. Thank you for honoring our call. Thank you also for having so much fun with us. We do not take it for granted. Thank you, Glory, for coming in. Thank you for the contribution so far. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Thank you to every other person who had joined the conversation. It's been a very insightful one. We hope you learned. We hope you have take homes. The recording would be available on YouTube. You could watch the replay, drop comments, follow PCP Origins, subscribe, follow us across our social media channels as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.